We'll go next to Nicole in Lincoln. Since the start of the college football playoff, every national champion has started in the top 6 of the preseason AP poll. Do you think there is a team that is ranked 7th or lower that can win the national championship this year? If so, who? Yes, of course I'm going to tell you who, Nicole. Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a team ranked 7th or worse that can win the national championship. And for this, just because I'm going to allow Vegas to speak for me when it comes to this answer. Because I look at Vegas, and Vegas doesn't have bias. They don't look at conference supremacy. They don't look at the debate that is going on constantly between teams and coaches and fans and all this other stuff. Vegas is in the business of making money. So they put out power ratings, not rankings, power ratings. And those ratings help illustrate who they think would be favored on a neutral field against the opposition. Now, the top 10 are pretty obvious, okay? The first in the AP poll is Texas. Well, Vegas agrees. Their power ratings have the Texas Longhorns as the top team in the country. The second team, according to Vegas, is Ohio State. They're ranked 3rd in the AP, so we're all in line there. At 3, power ratings, Georgia. They're ranked 5th in the AP poll, so we're good there. Notre Dame is 6th in the power ratings. They're ranked 6th in the AP, and Clemson is 8th in the power ratings. They're ranked 4th in the AP. So there's your top 6 AP teams. They're all ranked in the top 8 from a Vegas power ratings perspective. So translation, the AP poll did a pretty good job. They obviously look at what teams might be capable of on a neutral field, and they rank them accordingly. Granted, I think Clemson should be a little higher. I think Penn State should be a little higher, but I digress. Not a conversation worth having right now. The question is how many teams that are ranked 7th or worst that can win the national championship? Well, let's go start with team that's ranked 8th right now in the AP poll. That's the Alabama Crimson Tide. Vegas has them 5th in the power ratings. Now, you look at what Alabama has. They have so much production back off last year. Their defensive line should take a significant step forward. That was a position that was occasionally up and down last year. Their linebackers should be more comfortable in Kane Womack's defense this year. Little different style from what they played under Nick Saban to what they played last year under Kane Womack. Those guys at the second level should be much more comfortable playing this style. And I think they had the best secondary in the sport. You look at the offense. Offensive line last year, especially on the right side, had some ebbs and flows. You look at the offensive line as a whole this year, they feel much better, I think, about their personnel and their depth across the board. I love their depth at running back, even though Jam Miller's banged up and will miss the first part of the season. I think quarterback has been the big question mark surrounding Alabama. And I look at Ty Simpson. And while his ceiling might not be as high as a Jalen Milroe because of Milroe's athleticism, I still think his floor is much higher than that of Jalen Milroe. You look at a few games last year where Jalen Milroe went out and just looked lost from time to time. The Oklahoma game comes to mind. The game against Tennessee where he made a couple critical errors. The game against Vanderbilt where he had a couple turnovers. Even though I think he played pretty well in that game, the defense was really what let them down in that game against the Commodores. So I think Alabama will be a better team this year. Also, year 2 in Kalen DeBoer, I'd be surprised they didn't take a significant step from a consistency standpoint. And by season's end, with the veterans they have back, they'll be in a position to go chase a championship in the postseason. I look at a team like Oregon. Vegas has them 7th in the power rankings, the power ratings. AP has them 7th in the rankings. Here's what I love about Oregon is that they can just weather the storm of the regular season. And I don't think the schedule is insurmountable. It's tough. They go to Penn State. They have a couple very difficult games, but the schedule, I think, was actually maybe a little tougher last year than it is this year. If they can weather the storm, this is about as young of a roster as one can imagine. If this roster takes a collective step and gets better, because what we know about young players, they have a tendency to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better as the season goes along. Now, you might have some really high highs, or you might have some really low lows. That's what happens when you play young players. But if this team can somehow avoid the critical error that cost them a game that they should win, they might be in great position going into the postseason with that young roster having gelled, having overextended in the regular season, and then their best football is actually right in front of them. So you get Oregon into the postseason, that's when they get very, very dangerous. So if they make the 12-team playoff, guess what? Whoever's playing Oregon in first round, second round, third round, from the first round to the third round, you're probably going to have a much better football team that you're going to have to beat. So I love the upside of this Oregon team. I think they can win a national championship, and yet they're ranked outside the top 6 of the AP. And the one that is the biggest discrepancy right now between the Vegas power ratings and the AP poll, the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, people will look and say, well, hang on a second. They had a really, really good roster last year. Well, Vegas had them like first or second in the power ratings last year. They were off the charts good. The problem is they made critical error against Kentucky. They couldn't convert a 3rd and short against Florida, and they really struggled there at the end of the LSU game. Remember, LSU did not lead in regulation of that game, and Ole Miss lost. They went wire to wire leading that game and lost the game on the field in overtime. I look at where they're rated in Vegas. Vegas has them 9th. The AP has them ranked 21st. That's a pretty significant gap. Now, there are some questions. Austin Simmons, their quarterback, not a question. I think that guy's going to be the real deal. I absolutely love their weapons on the perimeter. I think their wide receiver core, no one's talking about them. No one's talking about the explosiveness of this offense potentially. Their weapons have a chance to be as good as any in the SEC by season's end. I am a little concerned about their defense and all the great players they had to replace. I'm a little concerned about their offensive line, but the schedule is for the most part manageable. A lot of their toughest games are at home. They get 8 games at home this year. I think Ole Miss, Vegas probably has them right, sitting there at 9th. The AP might have missed by having them 21st. So that's another team that if they got hot and the defense doesn't take a huge step back, maybe they can be a player in the national championship hunt as the season goes along.